Welcome back to the Dadnarok After Show. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
And we are here once again to discuss the latest and greatest in TV and streaming for the week. We're here to talk Andor, Rings of Power, House of the Dragon, and welcome to Wrexham. And should be a good show.
Yeah, guys. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Let us know what you think of the shows while we're talking about it. We're fully interactive. We love your input. So join the community. And I think we just might as well just dive right into what we're talking about this week. So here we go.
From the sacred land.
To see what?
Imagine 50 meteor showers all at once, but like a curtain being pulled across the sky, until the window to the galaxy, forms over the horizon.
You've seen this?
I've been here almost 7 years. I've seen it twice. It's not the event it used to be. Now they've got everyone relocated. It's a pretty sad affair, but the eye, it's not something you'll soon forget.
Cool
Is it
episode
something
this
you'll
week.
forget?
Big time episode. Well, continued kind of the trajectory of the first three, and especially the last episode where stuff started to ramp up, and felt a little bit better this week, I must say.
Dude, it felt a lot better. Honestly, those first two episodes were nothing for me. I didn't get anything off them. The third episode, I feel like it picking up. This fourth one did it. I was locked in the whole time. I was pulled in. It felt like Rogue One. It felt like there was a mission. We got, the objective. We got Mon Mothma, even though I'm not a fan of Mon Mothma at all. We got some of her inner home life with her going. Well, then when she went to pick up the antiquity, and she actually dealt with Luthien.
Yeah,
and his whole new transformation and how he's kind of covering up what he's doing.
right.
There was a lot of good that happened in this episode.
I thought so. Yeah, give me. I was curious about your thoughts about the Mon Mothma stuff because you're so anti Mon Mothma. You made that pretty clear last week. And
I just don't like her character. I think her character is the reason everything falls apart in the end. It's just, I know too much, and that's really what it comes down to. I know too much to actually watch these type shows and watch certain characters and know how they're really the downfall of what they're going for here.
Right. So Luthen, last episode he kind of rescues Andor from the position that he was in. They go off planet, and Luthen's just badass ship with giant lightsabers on the side of it. And
that is pretty cool.
There's that, and the fact that he gives he's going to pay Andor 200,000 credits, was big time money there in Star Wars Galaxy. And as collateral, he gives something that's worth at least 50,000, which is like a necklace with seems to be a kyber crystal on it.
That kyber crystal is worth more than what he's deadpanning it as, because he knows if he says the real value of that kyber crystal, he's gonna pawn it quickly.
Well, Andor even was starting to think so in that ship where the AI of the ship was like, "Is there something I could do for you?"
Yeah, exactly. For a minute, it looked like he was going to try to steal the ship and take off.
Yeah, and why not? It's like he's not loyal to this Luthen guy.
He's got the ship. He's got the kyber crystal. He bounced.
Yeah, and why not take that ship? And,
I wouldn't actually fall him at all if he just say, bye.
He doesn't, though. I guess maybe the curiosity got the better of him, and he does end up being introduced to this. This is a ragtag group of rebels here. We've seen ragtag before, but these are
these what 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah.
And they need an extra hand when this whole thing is going down in 3 days. Even
the layout when they're going over the plan and they're just have models in the dirt and just creating stuff out of the ground there just to try to explain. It's not like the big hologram boards that we're used to seeing. It's just these guys are underfunded and low staff.
Well, that's what Luthen was there talking about with Mothma. It's like, we need money. We need to pay these people. They're scavenging. They're barely living, but yet everything is hinged on these people.
Yeah.
Imagine how many more other groups that are just like this on other planets that are occupied by the Empire. So there's a bunch of them. So a bank heist. That's essentially what we're getting. We're getting a bank heist.
Fun. I like that kind of stuff because anytime, whether it's Ocean's 11 or anytime they have kind of sort of themed episodes like this where you're on a mission, even like the latest Top Gun. It's like you go over the mission plan. This is exactly what we need to do. And then as the events are unfolding in real time, and you as the audience are informed, like, oh, that went awry, like that was a mistake. Oh,
Yeah.
now they're in trouble. It's basically a nice, easy way of you being invested in the future of what's happening in the plot.
Well, I mean,
Um,
it's like one of my favorite episodes from The Mandalorian season 2 was the Bill Burr episode when they actually infiltrated the base. So
yeah,
it kind of has that same feel to it. So
right.
I'm ready for the spectacle. I'm ready for them to go in there, get it, get out, and see this meteor shower that's
Yeah,
taking place because they built this up to be something magnificent.
they sure
And
did.
I
I hope
want to
they
see if
spent
they can
some.
pull off the visuals.
Yeah, I hope they do. I hope they spend some of that budget towards whatever that's coming. Because yeah, you're right. This whole episode, they were just talking it up like crazy.
I want to see
Um,
a TIE fighter come in, try to fly in, get knocked
mhm.
out of the sky. I want to see all. I think that is what this. Are they going to give it to us next episode, or are they going to draw this out a little longer?
I feel like with a 12 episode series, there's a high potential for this being another maybe 2 episodes, or even 3. That's the funny thing about this. It's just hard to speculate. And I try to find that in a lot of these shows, like a lower episode count, you can kind of guess on stuff like that. But House of the Dragon, which we'll talk about later, but like the time skips on that, it's so
Yeah,
hard to like try to judge what the next 1 or 2 or 3 episodes are gonna hold because it's just, like the pacing can be like super fast or then they slow
they
down
slow
quite a
down.
bit.
Yeah. Well, I know like next season it's supposed to be like 3 episode chunks. It's like a
Mhm.
period of time, and they skip and they skip and they skip until they are current with the Rogue One time.
Mm,
This season here, I think it's supposed to be an encapsulated period of time. So there's no like big time skips,
right.
but we know that there's 3 days between when we ended this episode to when this is supposed to take place, and where he's supposed to learn. Are we going to get a training a training montage
Right. Yeah,
of him
maybe.
learning the material, of him getting used to things before he actually go and do this heist, or is the heist going to be a 2 episode thing? Like they're actually going and doing it, and then something, I don't know,
Like
maybe the meteor
cliffhanger.
shower is delayed or something like that, or they're looking like, oh no, it's not happening for the first time in history when it's supposed to happen.
Right.
And then they cut forward, they cut there, cut to black, and then the next episode is they start seeing it, and then they know they can go.
Or it all goes wrong and they get captured and then they're
That would be
prisoners.
even better if an actual like recon crew has got to come in and get them out.
Right.
I would almost prefer that. I think that would be cool because it'll justify that one ISB officer. Her
Hmm.
point was saying, hey, something more is going on
Right.
when everyone else is like, no, there's nothing happening. They're just fat and lazy and not paying attention to anyone. Like Andor was saying, I would prefer them getting caught.
What is it? The Imperial Security Bureau? Is that the ISB? It's something like along those
Yeah,
lines.
it's something down those lines. Yeah,
ISB as a group, it's funny because there was the one officer on the Death Star in A New Hope that was wearing the white uniform instead of the gray uniform, and he was always a guy with the mustache, and he was always and then the extended universe canon, all the novels since then, and even stuff that's outside of canon now and inside. ISB has been they've been in those a lot, like the
yeah.
books and the novels, the comics.
People are
Um,
more fearful of the ISB than any Imperial officer because they
yeah,
almost have more power than the
right.
Imperial officers have.
It's almost like internal affairs, in a police department or something. It's
Yeah,
just like nobody wants to see them walking through the building because it usually means trouble.
yeah. Someone's coming down on somebody, and their day's ruined.
Yeah, and it seems like this group in particular would probably have a direct link to the higher ups, including Palpatine.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm waiting. I'm waiting to hear Palpatine's voice, or
yeah,
I'm waiting to hear the breathing of Vader, or some because they've got to be connected in some manner. If we're going to be, I think we're going to get more time on Coruscant than we got this episode, next episode,
yeah.
and it just by proximity. I think we talked about it last week. By proximity, they have to be there. One of the two need to be there.
And we were introduced to a brand new character by the name of Deidre or Dedra. She's the blonde lady that was kind of this ISB officer, and you saw the internal strife. So not only you saw internal strife on both sides, like when Andor being introduced to this new group and then being really hesitant to bring a new
Yeah,
guy in, and then even this with this woman trying to like do her best, and she's clearly doing her job properly. Like she's not wrong where her intuition is
Oh,
going.
not at all. No, she
And
sees
yet
the
she's
box
meeting
and everything. Yeah.
so much resistance from the people above her and the people around her. It was interesting to see that dynamic between the two sides.
Well, it was what the ISB officer. Now I love him, the main guy. He
Yeah,
has that Tarkin feel to him,
yeah,
like no other actual like character in Star Wars has. He
right.
has that like ominous feel to him, and the fact that he was like, "What do we do here?" He's like, "We eradicate disease."
Yeah,
I'm like, "Oh, I love that line."
yeah. I felt like Agent Smith. I mean, they were very much the baddies in this, but they're very cold, calculating. But so far, there's not enough meat on the bone there for them to like give the go ahead for her to continue her efforts
Well, yeah,
and
they
just
snuff her
basically,
out.
yeah.
And after she gets basically put in her place when they're all together, when he says, back off, he's
Mhm.
got this. She sees something in one of her digital panels.
Yeah.
So she's cued into something else while, they're all sitting back, getting fat and happy.
Right. Yeah. We can't not talk about Luthen and his little character there at the we see, and I love the scene, like him getting into character, putting on the wig, getting dressed in the finer things, really just kind of like, getting into the mood of it, right?
Yeah.
And we see him like embody that character down in Coruscant in that shop, in that antiquities shop, which was full of Easter eggs, by the way.
Yeah, they were everywhere
Um,
from
yeah.
holocrons to yeah.
I even saw something I didn't realize, and I was watching a video, and they even took Indiana Jones' whip and froze it in carbonite.
Oh,
There
that's
was a
cool. I
there was
didn't
a
notice
small
that.
block of carbonite with Indiana Jones's whip. I thought that was, like, really fun.
I may have to watch
Um,
that, but maybe a few things I missed then.
yeah, but even that scene, just the, Mon Mothma having to come in and being suspicious of her own driver because it was
Yeah.
a new face. Everybody was aware of what's going on, maybe besides the driver. You could tell that Luthen and the secretary that he had there, they were both hardcore rebels, like, knew exactly, like, their eyes were everywhere, trained on this driver's new face.
Yep.
Mon Mothma goes to the back, gives the story of getting a gift for her husband. And I loved that stuff, like straight up spy stuff. That's the kind of
Yeah.
stuff that I was looking for.
I like how she's like, I'm in battle, like everywhere I go. I
Yeah.
can't trust really anybody. That's why she had to change her driver. I mean, she has her husband at home playing those games with people that he knows that she doesn't want to sit with and have dinner with because they're trying to get her, but yet he invites them for dinner.
This guy, her
Oh,
husband, Mr. Mothma, can go somewhere.
yeah, no, he's a smarmy little bastard.
And he was just like, does everything have to be so dull and boring and sad? Let me throw a party where I'm going to have Sly Moore as a guest. Hello, what the
Yeah.
hell are you doing?
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. So I don't think he's long for the world. I think something's gonna happen,
Yeah,
and he's gonna be.
he's not going to join the rebellion with Mon Mothma.
Oh no, he may wind up in a Sarlacc pit. No.
Yeah, overall, just like a great episode. I really loved.
I'm
They,
happy we enjoyed this one.
yes, very much so.
I mean,
Um,
this episode was needed, was
mhm,
direly needed for this show because the level of anticipation and just was pumped into the show. The
mhm.
first 3 episodes didn't live up to that.
And not only like were there good scenes in this episode and stuff, but there was like the setup for some future payoff. It seems like they're setting up for some fun stuff, in the next few episodes. So I was
Dude,
grateful for that.
the shot that Andor and I'm not gonna know her name real quick. The lady that he winds up with, the supervisor on the planet, when they had
Oh
to
yeah,
duck in the hills, and then you've seen the TIE fighters scream over.
yeah,
That was cool.
that was very very cool.
Just seeing the TIE fighters just scream over the landscape like that. It was like, oh, that felt. I mean, I don't have to see lightsabers, but every now and then I want to see a TIE fighter. I want to see an X-wing. I want to see some things that are familiar. Jedi aren't always needed, but Jedi, artifacts are cool. But
Right.
that was like, okay, I'm in the world. I feel the world. I feel the direness of it. I know what's going on.
Yeah. It was
Full thumbs up.
it was great. Yeah, I can't wait to see what's next. So maybe we should talk about what's next. What's next for us here? What are we moving on to?
But real quick, guys, if you have anything you want to add to that conversation, go ahead and drop it in the comments. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let us know if you're watching recorded. Drop it in the comments below, and we'll respond. But like Sean said, we have more to talk about. So let's go ahead and roll into the next.
So, Wheelstone was a draw, but since I had to watch a 0-0 soccer game in Philadelphia in front of everyone I know, it counts as a loss.
That seems very petty.
Shut up, Ryan.
Oh, poor bastard. I know his pain. That is every American soccer fan's nightmare.
That was my hesitation getting into soccer. I'm like, it can actually like end on 0-0. Like, who the hell wants to sit around and watch that?
And it's funny because because when we went to our game, it wound up 1-1. And because I was explaining to you, a tie can feel like a win, a tie can feel like a loss.
Right.
Our tie that we've seen with 30 seconds left in the damn game felt like a clear loss for us.
Yeah.
This tie, because of the situation, I mean, it was cringeworthy. He was like, "Oh, this is when they pick it up at the 25th minute." I'm like, "Oh man, you're trying to sell it hard."
Mm-hmm.
And they never pick it up. And they scored what? It was 11 goals in the past 2 games. So he's pumped. The team is humming. And they put up a goose egg at home.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I feel you. I felt terrible for Rob, seeing him sit at the bar and his friends around him drinking and yawning and not having a good time. And I can imagine that Philadelphia crowd being like, dude, what'd you get yourself into?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's surrounded by his buddies, and they're probably like, okay, whatever, man. Because soccer has been historically kind of a hard sell over here. Like, we know the rest of the world is crazy about it, but it just never hit until recently, I would say, maybe the last 10 years or so, where it's really just kind of upped and upped and upped. And I don't know if it has something to do with like the typical like soccer moms and soccer families. Like a lot of youth has been getting into soccer
Well,
heavily.
you say that, it's funny because soccer is actually the most popular youth sport in this country, in the U.S.
Yeah.
But once they get into high school and everything, it turns into more of a, they go to baseball, they go to football, they go to basketball. I mean, here in the States, for kids, that's where the money is. LeBron James making the money. Aaron Jones with the Yankees going to be making that money. Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, he's going to be making that money. You don't see those contracts here in the States. The only way you can actually break into that money is if you wind up over in the Premier League or the Bundesliga or somewhere over there.
And in college sports, I mean, even college basketball and college football, I mean, I would say they're almost as big as the NBA and the NFL as far as just like how passionate the fan bases are. And like, I mean, whole universities can, if they didn't have their college football team, like roaring and like who knows what kind of funding that university would get. Like it's entrenched in the society here as far as like that even that league, not even the professional league, but the college league.
Yeah, and MLS is still a baby, honestly. I mean, it was formed back in '96. And when we went, I keep on referring to our games, it's the only game you've been to. But when we went to that one game, my fear for it was 2 things. Are we going to get nothing, a 0-0 tie, no tie? I didn't want that for that to be your first game.
Right.
I needed some goals. And second, I was like, this is 1:00 on a Sunday afternoon going up against the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of turnout are we going to get? And luckily, the game was meaningful. That was when I bought the tickets. I wanted to go to a meaningful game, and going to one so late, I was like, either this is going to be, they're going to be out of the chase. There's going to be nothing to this game. No one's going to come to it because they're going to be watching the Bengals and the Browns,
right?
Or it's going to be a blast. And it was a sellout. So it was what I was hoping for.
And even then, they were still up on the scoreboard. They were giving us updates on the Browns game.
I kind of know why though. That's owner based because the owner of the Browns owns the crew.
Okay.
The owner of the Browns is the only reason why the crew are still in Columbus. He saved them when they were trying to move them to Austin.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a love-hate relationship with the owner of the Browns.
So as far as these particular episodes of Wrexham, they were back in true form here. 2 episodes, 2 shorter episodes, which is a little bit different than they've done the last couple of weeks. But before that, this is the formula. Episode 10, it focuses on the hooligans aspect of soccer and football. And then episode 11, it was more about the coach and the struggles with getting wins together. And like you said, mentioned earlier, Mac's pub there, the issue that Rob had bringing people into his pub. Just like, I guess basically the thesis of that second is they're starting to churn some wins out, thankfully.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Because they want to go ahead and they're running into that. I think it's the summer transfer window
Yeah.
where they have that month to go ahead and add more players.
That was
Well, Robin,
January.
January. So Rob and
Yeah.
Ryan are like they want to add players, but the finances what they're putting into it, they're being told aren't sustainable.
Right.
They start losing money at a rate that they can't actually sustain. So they want to be able to be responsible with it, but they want to get out of what was it league? I think it's League 2 they're in.
Mhm.
They're in the lower league. So without actually putting finance to put money into the team, they're not going to get the players to get out of it. But there's a lot of actual like questions about the coach now. Is he going to be able to do it? Is he going to be able to actually go ahead and do what he's done in the past? Is Phil going to be able to, sustain this? And they went to say basically saying we're going to see how he does in this next 10-game stretch because they started with a rough stretch. They knew it was going to be a rough stretch.
Yeah.
And then they went into these 10 games, and I mean they lit the world on fire.
They really did. It was fun to watch, frankly, like because it's something that we haven't seen as viewers yet. Is just a string of wins, a lot of ties, even some losses.
Some heartbreaking losses, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of disappointments. So for them to come, give you something to root for, and the turn like there's been a lot of strife, even conversations that Rob and Ryan had the last couple of episodes with some of the fans there when they were visiting, like, oh, you got to get rid of the management, you got to get rid of the gaffer, he's not doing anything for us, and for them to see kind of a turnaround because I actually like the coach a lot with his interviews and stuff. He seems
Yeah.
like
Do you like his enthusiasm speeches?
I do. I love him.
This guy they start counting the F-bombs he's dropping. It's great.
It's funny, he reminds me of Gordon Ramsay. I don't know what it is besides just the accent. You know how Gordon Ramsay can be, like, really kinda soft and positive when it comes to, like, MasterChef Junior when he's talking to kids, right? He's, like, very positive and, like, just, like, kind and cool and collected with them. And then Kitchen Nightmares, he's just, like, kicking pots and pans around and
Yeah.
screaming his head off at people. It's, like, so the opposite ends of the spectrum, and I kinda like that of him.
Yeah, he's got the ability to turn it on, turn the intensity on
Mhm.
when the game is on. Now,
Mhm.
I think that may be the biggest issue. Does he not have that same intensity during training? Does he
Right.
not? Is he not getting his team prepared in training? Because I mean, you always say like my daughters are in gymnastics. My daughter. Good lord, if I had two, I'd be dead. Uh, uh, there's a big banner sign that hangs in there that says you compete as you practice.
Mhm.
So are they practicing to the level that they want to actually show on the field? So that's always the biggest question. But I mean, they've gotten results. They went from 13 to what, sixth in the table.
Yeah.
So they've climbed up, and now it looks like Rob and Ryan are ready to go ahead and put money into this transfer window to go ahead and get another striker. Get them a number 9 because they don't have a true striker. I don't think Paul Mullen is a 9.
They give a quick introduction to this guy named Ollie Palmer, which Rob gives the comparison to the Irishman and Braveheart, which you and I are, you were huge Braveheart fans.
Yeah.
You and I know that movie back to front. So when they brought up that reference, you're like, oh, okay, we'll see where this turns
Well, yeah,
out.
the Irishman. I'm
It's
getting out of here, but you're pretty much fucked.
That's right. My island.
So
Yeah,
the
I can't
funny
wait to
thing
see what
is,
happens.
I just bought FIFA 23.
Yeah.
I was determined to play a few teams. I played my game that I watched last night on MLS. I was like, okay, we won. Cool. That's a good good omen. I was like, okay, I got to find Wrexham. Are they in here? And I found them. And I'm playing. And dude, I destroyed the team I was playing. It was like 4-0. And 2 of my goals came from Ollie Palmer. I was like,
Oh,
this
cool.
is pretty cool. They got it updated. They actually had him on the game. I got I got a diving header from Paul Mullen. I was like, that's only fitting.
That's awesome.
So that was a fun little connection of the 2 shows.
I would
But
love to see you. We need to figure out a way of you to stream that somehow. I don't know. We'll figure out logistics.
yeah, exactly. But let's just touch on this briefly, the dark side
Yes.
of soccer, because they were talking about the hooligans, and
Mhm.
that is something that our country, I think, sees and are like, we want nothing to do with it. I think that may be one of the things that this country is so resistant to getting a part of, because we even got a little bit of that from last week's episode where they were like, they can't. So no, I think I got this from either Sean or the London supporters of Wrexham on Twitter that said they can't actually serve alcohol during the game. It's before the game and it's at halftime
Mm.
because of the laws that were put in place because of all of the I guess the hooliganism or all the violence and all that takes place. So when the halftime hits, they were like the actual stands empty because they're all going to get a pint because that's the only time they can get it during the game. And then they get back up in the stands for the rest of the game.
I woke up this morning to the news of tragedy in Indonesia, where apparently, and details are still unfolding, but it's apparently one of the deadliest instances in a football stadium in history. Over 130 people have died, and it's due to fights breaking out and tear gas being used. And because of the tear gas being used, there was a mad rush for families leaving the top of the stands, and there were trampling incidences and people dying even from the tear gas, and just like tragic. And this, by all accounts, has probably started out with just the passion of I don't want to say hooligans in particular, maybe not. Like I said, details are still forming, but just like tear gas was brought out for some reason.
Yeah.
you know just like the fact that something like this can happen, and it's not like some sort of outside attack or terrorism or anything. It's just like from the fans that wanted to show up and have a good time, and it just like snowballs into something like this. Is crazy.
I can see that. I mean, maybe not to that extent because, say, for instance, lower.com doesn't hold that many people. But after what happened in our game, we drink during the whole game. There's no like limited drinking. And how we lost, or not lost, how we tied, you heard the strife throughout the whole stadium.
Yeah.
Yelling at the ref, yelling at the coach, yelling at the players. I wasn't immune to this. I was pissed. I mean, I'm shocked I walked out of the stadium with my hacks. I thought I threw it on the field on accident when I smashed it down on the bar in front of me. So yeah, it's terrible. And it's one of those we see it as when American fans, the only time we see that, not the tragedy that took place, but the precautions that are put in place is when the U.S. men's national team is trying to qualify for the World Cup, which we did this year.
Right.
We go to countries like Ecuador, just to call out one, and there's a fence. It's like a 10 to 12 foot fence separating the fans from the field. And not only that, there are security guards stationed all around on the edge of the field to prevent anything from happening. It makes you wonder what happened in that country, and I'm going to use them as an example, that led them to that.
Yeah.
So, because something had to have happened.
And that'll give you guys a little bit of, idea of the American mindset here, is that we're not used to stuff. I mean, we're used to we even have people, even when they win the game, they throw riots. And we've mentioned our Philadelphia fans, how crazy they can get and stuff. But
the parades after winning. I mean, essentially, when our championship level teams win, people go to the street. Next thing you know, cars are burning. I mean,
in celebration.
It makes no sense to me. I'll be the first one to say that, but I mean, it happens here in celebration rather than in strife.
Yeah. And so when we think of going to a sporting event, we think of it as a family affair. You bring the kids; it's going to be a fun day out of the ballpark,
unless it's the NFL.
Whatever. Or even with the NFL, like I remember hearing a story of Matt Damon was on one of those late night talk shows, and I think his wife is she's South American, either Argentina or Brazil or something. He went down there with his kids, like their kids, to visit her family down there. And they were like, "Hey, let's go to a football game. That sounds like it could be, fun." Matt Damon was thinking he was going to bring the kids and stuff, and his father-in-law was like, I don't know. That might be a bad idea. And Matt Damon goes over the story of how when he gets to this soccer stadium, like you said, it's surrounded by almost like barbed wire fences, and they were like legit military people with guns, like to just try to keep things low and calm and to keep stuff from like that from breaking out. And he was like mystified. He was like, I can't believe this is going on right now.
Yeah, definitely here in the States, we think everything as a family environment.
Yeah.
I can absolutely see a soccer match in another country sometimes that's only grown adults go to this.
Right. But besides that, a couple of good episodes.
Man, I loved it, dude.
Yeah.
This was what I wanted. First episode, not as much. I didn't like how much they actually focused on hooliganism. I think it's such a dark side of the sport.
I think you have to talk about it, though.
I think you have to talk about it, but I think giving it a whole episode, and definitely one of the guys that is a proud member of it. I mean, he flat out said he's proud of it. I don't think glorifying it is the proper way about doing it. And I felt like it almost glorified it more than informed, if that
I
makes
did
sense.
expect to see like a real-time tweet from when it happened from Rob or Ryan to address it. Like Ryan had that voiceover kind of explaining that it's bad in the episode, but I kept wondering the whole time, like when Rob and Ryan heard about this, the day after they were there or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I wondered, did they send out a tweet? I mean, what was their reaction to it, if any? And I don't think we got an idea of what the initial aftermath was.
I think they're pretty much leaving it in the hands of the authorities. And then once they know who it is, they're getting a lifetime ban from the racetrack or race course.
Right.
So there won't be a come back and actually see a game. And he had that one guy that's proud of it. He's actually banned this season, but he continued. We can relate to this as American fans. We continue to pay for our season tickets, so we have an option of renewing them next year when you can go back.
Right.
I'm like, man, you're pouring money into the team that you can't even see. Are you at least trying to sell these tickets?
His wife couldn't advance her career because he was
that was gut wrenching right there. But okay, well, you know what? I want to actually end our Wrexham segment here on a couple things. So Simi over here on YouTube went ahead and explained why Mullins got the 3-game suspension. So remember why he got the red card, but they didn't give it to him?
Yeah.
They retroactively gave it to him. And apparently it was a foul that they found so severe they were able to expand upon the 1-game suspension. So that's why he went ahead and got 3 games. Over on Twitter, the Wrexham London supporters went ahead and sent us out a link, which I went ahead and subscribe to. So I'll let you know when we go ahead and it's available. Rob and Ryan has put a lot of pressure on the league to be able to go ahead and stream their matches online.
Oh, okay.
Right now, as we sit right now, they're not available anywhere, legit or not legit. So I'm not sure how they're actually getting the games in Philly and Rob and Ryan are. They may have some because of ownership.
Yeah,
money. But they have now been able to successfully convince the league to stream the games.
Oh, cool.
So I went ahead and signed up per the link that we were provided for the notification when it actually comes out and how to do it.
Oh, awesome.
So
okay.
I'm kind of pumped to see that. Let me see. Well, Andy here mentioned Wayne and how the conversation between Wayne and the race course about putting the pub in the stands and how it wouldn't interfere. And that's why that was one of the ways the information I referenced to where they can't actually have a pint during the game. So it's not affecting the I'm blanking on the name of the actual pub. And well, it's not going to affect the pub at all.
Right.
Let me see anything else here. Oh, this is important. So remember how we thought that only one team got promoted out of the league a year?
Yeah.
It's not actually the case. The first team that finishes first automatically gets promoted.
Okay.
2 through 6, there's a playoff. They actually get out.
Yeah.
The heartbreaking thing is, and it was Simi here, I think it told me is, they had 96 points that came in second place, and they got knocked out of the actual tournament, so they didn't get promoted.
Oh, boo.
So I was like, man, know how heartbreaking that would be, knowing your team is so fantastic.
Yeah.
And then you have to play in this tournament, knowing you're much better than these other teams you're playing, but one blown defensive, play, and you're out, and you got to start all over again.
I do like that there's that extra shot, though. That's fun. See, that's what adds to the story and to the drama, and that's why a lot of this is so much fun. Because it's like if you just take the one team a year and that's it, it's just like so deflating. But like to give that second chance, like that's they know what they're doing. Historically, I think maybe that's why the sport has grown so much as it has, because sports ultimately has to connect with people. That's why fans are fans and they're fanatics, because there's such a connection.
Yeah.
And something like that is going to bring out more of a connection. So that's
cool. Yeah. And one last shout out here to Paul. He said the season runs August to May.
Okay.
So their season's just starting. Our season here is just stopping.
God, August to May with like a 1 month break in between.
that's been the biggest thing I know. When we had a U.S. men's national team coach, his biggest deal was the MLS doesn't run as long. So it takes them so much longer to get into game shape outside, unless they are in, these European leagues.
Yeah.
But I think there's such a difference in weather, in the extremes here in the States. There's no way from the run that long, I don't believe. But
well, you know what? Maybe they're closer to their families and stuff too. I'm sure they travel and stuff. I don't know. That would be tough. I can't imagine having a season. As far as if I'm thinking like NFL and a lot of us, they get at least maybe 3 to 4 months in between seasons,
yeah.
so they can like reconnect with family. They can even, or even just the staffing, like the coaches and stuff. Like, what did we do wrong this season? What did we do right? Like going back to the drawing board and like making changes. You only have 1 month to do that in between seasons. I'm like, I don't know.
Well, yeah, their league runs kind of like the college football. You think about it. College football
Yeah,
season for coaches never ends because
right.
once the championship hits, they got to go ahead and start recruiting and all that. But real quick, guys, thanks so much. I mean, thank you for Andy's, Andy, Simi, Paul, and everyone that has dropped comments over on the YouTube channel. We love it. The information you guys are giving us is great. But yeah, if you're watching live, make sure you drop a comment live. I mean, we love watching your comments coming along the way. We love it if you join the community. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We do this at 10 o'clock every Sunday morning. And we have a lot of other things. We have the Last of Us trailer. We just did Hellraiser. We just did. So we have a lot of other a lot of other content that is on the channel. So check that out. And we have another show to talk about. What do you think we move on to that?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
It's the rumble in the Southlands. It's the big boom at Mountain Doom. Big episode.
That episode was fun to start with. The way it ended, I was like, let's go. I feel like that's Tom Brady on a Sunday morning.
It was a lot of fun, man. And like I've enjoyed the series so far. But when they were able to like really kind of focus in on the Southlands, we know the Numenorians have already set sail last week. So they're on their way. There's that kind of lingering, them the cavalry showing up at any given point.
That was my only problem. If we're just gonna jump to my only nitpick of this episode, the timey-wimey thing they did with it being night when they're fighting at that, the keep and everything.
Yeah.
And then it was daylight when the Numenorians were coming in. It was like, when did the sun come up?
That's a transition issue that a lot of directors have sometimes. It's like it can be jarring. You need 1 or 2 scenes where you see some twilight or some brief morning sun where a lot of oranges and of the sun coming up or going down. Otherwise, your audience is going to be disconnected from it.
Yeah, all these orcs are avert to the sun.
Mm-hmm.
So you think there would have been something. There'd been some reaction from them. But like I said, I'm nitpicking. That's really the only thing that I truly didn't like about this episode. What I loved about the episode is they connected this episode to all the way back to almost episode 1.
Mm-hmm.
Those ditches, the tunnels.
Yeah.
They connected that and the purpose behind them. It wasn't so much to go ahead and raid the towns.
Right.
It was to get the water to Mount Doom.
Yeah. That was cool. And to see how that transpired, and that seemed to be Adar's big master plan here is to give, and it's kind of weird because it's like it's big bad, but he's almost doing it like because he loves like the orcs and stuff are of his creation, and like Galadriel calls them orcs, and he corrects her. He says uruk, and like he's proud of his creations. He actually has affection for these orcs.
Yeah.
He's not just like using them kind of like how Sauron used the Uruk-hai, you know what I mean? Like he has deep affection for what he considers his people.
Well, Adar means father.
Adar means father, that's what they call him, and they reciprocate that affection towards him. So he's doing it to give them a home, but it's also and it's funny that conversation between he and Galadriel later in the episode. You start to see Galadriel's just like, I can't, I'm going to kill each and every one of you. And she goes dark with it.
Yeah. When he enjoys it too, it's like, oh, I see the dark growing in you too.
Yeah. And he's like, we're not so different after all, are we? And they're playing that up. Like that's been a complaint by a lot of people. It's like, I don't like that Galadriel is this or that. And so like warmongery and seeking revenge. But it's like the show is aware that they're portraying her this way.
Yeah, it's
And
purposely done.
it's an issue that she's working through. Like, yeah, it's there for a reason.
Well, even when she's having a conversation and Ador is trying to tell her that he killed
Elrond.
Sauron up
Yeah.
in that area, and she's almost in tears because that's where she was.
Yeah.
You see the emotional strife going through her, and then Halbrand comes in and actually stops her from going too far, and it's a full circle moment because
Yeah.
she did the same thing with him with that same character.
Yeah, and it's Halbrand had a few moments too, like when they were doing there were so many fun scenes because they were going like, major battle scenes in the town, at the tower, how the elf character like trapped them into that tower of the fortress and lit it on fire. Like that was cool. He probably took a bunch of them out with that, like one move. Just like one guy, one move took about a bunch of them out. Then they moved on to the village, a lot of fight there. And then kind of once Numenor showed up, it was like the 1v1 where Galadriel hopped on her horse to
I
chase
love
after.
seeing her hanging off the side of the horse, pulling
Yeah.
some like Jedi mind trick things.
Yeah.
But it just her competence in battle
Yeah.
is spectacular. Like, it's unmatched, and they knew who she was.
Oh yeah.
They're like the leaders of the North Army. It was like they knew, there was no doubt that was Galadriel, and they knew what who was there to save them essentially.
And she does end up stopping Adar, who had ridden off, and Halbrand comes up, and he's the one that actually, I guess, kind of tackles, or no, he trips up Adar's horse,
Yeah, no
and he goes
horses
up
were
to
down
him.
or hurt during this episode.
I know they were quick to show a scene of that horse getting up by itself and walking away. I was like, they put that in there for a reason. But yeah, he asks, or Halbrand asks Adar, "Do you remember me?" And Adar doesn't seem to have any memory of Halbrand.
And
So
that
that
about sent him over the edge.
I thought that was peculiar. That was a moment like with Thanos and Scarlet Witch, like you took everything from me, and he's like, I don't even know who you are.
Yeah, that cut him deep too. It's like I really want to know what happened. We have to get a little bit more backstory of Halbrand.
Mhm.
I mean, I don't like flashbacks this far into the season, but we have to get something to know why he is so hellbent, or will he become, the Witch King? You know what I mean? We don't know who lived through this episode. We know Galadriel lived because she
Right.
just basically stood it and just took it on, and we're all washed over. And if you watch the preview to the next season, it's kind of like what was in the trailer. She's got the ash on her and she's standing there.
Yeah.
But we don't know if the Queen Regent died. We don't know if anyone. Well, there's got to be a few that survive, but we don't know how many actually survived the blast of Mount Doom.
Yeah, it's crazy, and like we know what this area eventually turns into when it comes to the times of the hobbits and stuff. Like this whole area of the Southlands and Mount Doom and Mordor is what it
Yeah.
becomes. In a place so environmentally, like the air itself is poison to breathe. Like, when you think about Sam and Frodo's last travels up to Mount Doom, they were walking through like hot ash and fire and stone, and it was not a pleasant area to be in. And but they think they win this battle, and the people of the Southlands now have this king, and this king is king of what exactly? This area that's going to become Mordor. So that only leads to me thinking like this Halbrand is some kind of bad guy, whether it's
Well,
Witch King or
Bronwyn
something.
actually recognized the pouch,
Yeah,
and she's pretty much said, the king has returned. And he took it on. I mean, he took up the mantle right in front of him. So he
Yeah.
was willing to do so, and then boom goes the dynamite essentially. But what'd you think of the old guy that knew what the sword was? The sword was a key, essentially. And he kind of slipped it in and he turned, and the visuals of the water coming down and
yeah,
everything, then hitting the actual like those tunnels, going through those. I mean, the whole thing, and blasting up in areas where the holes went into other houses,
yeah.
and all the visuals of this is shot so well. And then the terror upon the Queen Regent's face
Oh,
when she
sure.
sees Mount Doom go boom.
Right.
And I was like, I'm in. I feel it. I feel it. I mean, I'm ready for the actual show to speed up a little bit, Because I feel like we're getting to a point now where things are going to happen, and they're going to continuously happen.
There was a lot of setup. Yeah, the last few episodes have been set up, and even the storyline with Durin and Elrond has kind of been moving slowly towards something bigger.
Oh, I want to
Um,
see a Belrog so badly.
oh yeah,
I think we're going to wake it up in the next episode. They're down there mining in the lowest parts of
yeah.
Khazad-dûm, and we know that's where one is slumbering.
Even if we see a tease of that, I don't know. I don't know if we'll get it next episode or him being released next episode because they still have to make that door and bring in Celebrimbor and all that stuff. So there's some events to transpire before that happens. But oh yeah, I have a feeling that we're gonna see the doom of Khazad-dûm.
It's when do we see it? When do we
Yeah,
see them actually have to escape? Because there's a long history between the elves and the dwarves with trading mithril. So we
yeah.
need to get mithril before we can have the fall of Khazad-dûm.
Right. And we were talking about this, but those characters were not in this episode. Durin, Elrond, the Harfoots, the Stranger, nowhere to be seen this episode. It really focused on the Númenóreans and them coming to the Southlands, Halbrand, the elf character that I forget the name of again. So bad because he is a cool character, but I can
Is it
never
Undor?
something I couldn't.
Yeah,
I'll
I
just say
can't
yeah,
pronounce it
sure.
right. Yeah, it's
But he had a great episode too, just like how the cool moves that he was doing, almost single handedly defending the men there, the men and women. And how when he ran into Gladriel and he knew exactly who Gladriel was, and talked to her, I was like, to see different, separate storylines come together in this episode was a joy.
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we merged some storylines. What did you think? Because I've been nerd of the dude. Like I said, you set me down the whole rabbit hole, nerd of the ring,
yeah.
and I found out that the Númenóreans were actually larger in stature than everyone from Middle Earth, and I caught a little bit of that in this episode because they made the Queen Regent a lot taller than Brolin, and she was actually taller than Hilbrand. Did
Oh,
you?
okay. No, I didn't. I didn't notice that. I'll have to look back on that. That's interesting.
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, they're not like I think within Tolkien lore, their like average height is like 7 feet. I mean, they're a lot bigger,
Right.
but they made them bigger. That if say for instance, I was kind of looking for, there was a difference,
Yeah.
not a drastic difference, but there was a difference. I appreciate that. I appreciate they didn't make them giants,
Right.
but they made them taller to be more,
Well, there's a difference
ominous.
between just, in our world, just people of average height. I mean, you see a man that, there's a difference between height of you and me. Like, there's a big difference between a guy that's, 5'9", 5'10", and a guy that's over 6 foot. So to cast your people from Numenor as those 6 feet and above, and to cast the people of the Southlands as those, 5'5" plus, right?
Yeah,
There's that'll be enough to show like that the people of Numenor are hardier and from of this, different generation and span and stuff. That's
yeah.
cool.
Now we don't know this, but if the Queen Regent dies here, will that lead to her cousin taking over Numenor?
Oh, is it Farazad? Yeah,
Yeah,
back in Numenor. I don't know how the lineage works there.
because
I
I'm
don't
pretty sure.
think she died though. I think she's got more to do back on Numenor.
Because if I
So
know my Numenorian history now, because I'm digging so
right,
much
because
into
you're a
it,
scholar.
yeah, those two marry or get like set up together, and so is king and queen when her dad dies,
Okay.
and then something happens to her, and he takes over, and Sauron actually comes and gets captured twice, and winds up in his ear, and actually persuades him to actually sail east towards the Valar,
Hmm.
and they swallow him up, and then they swallow up the island.
Right.
So I mean, that's kind of the fall of Numenor. I'm curious how they're going to give us the fall of Numenor.
Yeah, and when that's taking place. Like, I mean, we've only got 2 episodes left of this season, so it's not going to happen now. But it's interesting to see how these things unfold. Right now, there's still a big mystery about who, if anyone, is Sauron, because we know historically he's disguised as this very like fair and nice elf that kind of whispers poison to the Númenóreans, and we don't really have a character that matches that exactly currently. So that feels like that's still yet to be seen.
Yeah, they're holding that. They may give us a glimpse in the season finale.
Yeah.
I think that's the only time. Now that we got Mount Doom, I think, man, I so badly want to see a Balrog, and I don't. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't think we're going to get one in this season because there's so much that has to take place within Khazad-dûm.
You know what I would love to see is them to start, mining and stuff, and then maybe the camera pans down, pans down, pans down, and then you see like, him in or something, or maybe he's just like hibernating or something. I don't know. There's
What if?
there's a way of like teasing it without them actually stumbling upon him.
Yeah, are we going to get any of the 7 rings forged?
I don't know. Even seems too early for that.
Or are they, because there's what, 3 for the elves and 6 for men?
I would say that it would be weird for a show called The Rings of Power to not see at least one ring of power at the end of season 1. So, hopefully,
Or the beginning forges are the ones that are meant specifically just for the elves?
um, I don't know. You got me as far as like I don't even have committed to memory how I know there were 9 for men, maybe 3 for the elves, maybe 6 or 7 for dwarves. I can't really remember the exact numbering, but yeah, we've got a lot of rings to make between now and the end of the series. So
Yeah,
for a show called The Rings of Power, we need to step
we need
on
a
the
little bit more on the rings.
yeah.
Okay, guys, what do you guys think? I mean, me and Sean here were talking glowingly about this episode. This has been a real fun episode for us. We're getting some connections to other Tolkien lore. We love all of that. If you liked it? Let us know. Drop a comment below if you're watching recorded. Drop a comment below if you're watching live. We love it, all the live stuff, anything that comes with that. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, join our community, check everything else that we got going on, and join us on 10 o'clock on Sunday mornings as we plug through all these shows that we really enjoy talking about and hope you enjoy listening to. But I think it is now time to move on to our final show of the day.
Hot D.
What of your position? You always said if you were absent from court, she would pour her honey in your father's ear.
The wise sailor flees the storms it gathers. Laenor. Bring him. We'll need every sword we can muster.
We got
So
the time skip finally.
yeah, we
10
did
years.
too. What did you think of the new actresses?
I think they're good. I think they're cast well. It's early to tell. We did get a lot from them though. It seemed to me it seemed fairly seamless, especially with Alicent's character,
Oh
because
yeah.
those two actresses like really kind of inform each other. There's kind of a big difference between the actress who played Rhaenyra and as far as like in the face, but I feel like she carried on that portrayal pretty well. It didn't take me out of it,
Oh
honestly.
yeah, not at all. And you can tell within those 10 years that we missed, there is some serious strife between Rhaenyra and Alicent now. I mean,
Yeah.
there's the hatred is built between those two.
Yeah, it's only grown more and more. Viserys is still kicking. I don't know how the hell he's still around 10 years later.
I have no idea. Like I've said in the past shows, I'm so over him. It's like he's like crazy grandpa now.
Everything that you disliked about him before, it's turned up to 11 now because it's clear that Allison is wearing the pants in that relationship. Like she just shuts him down and shuts him up like a few times in this episode.
Oh yeah, because she knows. I mean, I mean, everyone knows. But this
Yeah.
is the funny thing. Her kids are half Valerian. It's no different from Rhaenyra's kids. I mean, Targaryen. I'm sorry, half Targaryen. Rhaenyra's kids are half Targaryen. What deems them have blonde hair?
I don't know. I think the genetics, and this is something that played up in season 1 of Game of Thrones when um Ned Stark saw that blonde of hair, black of hair, the DNA is strong or whatnot, the hair but that's how he stumbled across that like Robert Baratheon's kids probably weren't Robert Baratheon's kids. They were born of that Lannister incest going on. So that has something to do with that. But you're right. I mean, Jon Snow was, a good portion Targaryen. He didn't have the blonde hair either. I think it has to do from like how strong, typically, like because you can go back in the families, and the strong family The ones with I forget. I only remember their last names, but there's the new Hand of the King. There's the Knights Guard, who we see that has a relationship with Rhaenyra in this episode, and finally the kind of the Littlefinger substitute,
Yeah,
his little
Laris.
brother.
Yeah, Laris Strong
Um,
is the oh man,
with
did he
the
have himself an episode?
all of them did. Yeah, he ends up taking out his own father and brother at the end
He
of this
he
episode.
went into the prison, cut out the tongues of the guys that were going to be put to death, and
Yeah.
turned them into his little birds, his little sparrows.
Yeah, and Alicent, even though she's like, has a trajectory towards evil queen the last few episodes, even she was shocked by like how far he went. She did not
But
care for that.
he is brilliant because he said, "I did it for you," and now
Yeah,
she knows there's no separating the two.
right.
No one's going to buy that he did it on his own volition.
Yeah,
They're going to think he did it because she told him. So now essentially she has murder on her hands. She has blood on her hands for killing, Rhaenyra's plaything and the hand.
right. And you know what? The only thing that really kind of shook me this episode was all the new kids, like the new characters. Like, okay, whose
Yes.
kid is this? Okay, there's a lot of kids running around. Who are these kids? We were aware of Aemon. Aemon was the only kid in the last few episodes, and he's grown up. He's got to be what, like 14, 15 now, as far as I think how old he's supposed to be portrayed as.
Yeah, don't walk by a window and look up.
Yeah, giving real Homelander vibes.
Yeah, he had
There.
a full Homelander vibe. Oh
Yeah.
my god, I'm sitting there and I'm in the living room watching some of my life, and I'm like, oh dear God, it made me like look away. I couldn't do it. And she's like, what the hell's going on? I was like, oh God,
Did she watch the original Game of Thrones?
no. But we intend on watching it once we're finished with this show. We're gonna watch all the way through.
Mm,
That's
that's
the
cool.
plan.
Yeah, so that if somebody who's not in the know with Game of Thrones, that might be pretty shocking. And she doesn't watch The Boys with you or anything, right?
No,
So
no, 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 no. She hasn't watched
you
The
might not have
Boys.
been prepared for that.
Oh yeah, no,
I
I
don't know if
wasn't
anybody
prepared
was
for
prepared.
that.
You and I weren't prepared for that. Steve.
No.
Whoa,
But
hey,
then
come on now.
and not only was he doing that, but his mom walked in on him doing it.
And she didn't even address it. She
No.
was just goes right into like, "Hey, you're the king" mode.
And the only thing she did at the end was like, get dressed.
Right.
Oh, that was kind of jarring to the soul.
Yeah, for
But
sure. Just well, and also just the relationship that he seems to have, where he prefers the relationship that he has with Rhaenyra's kids than does his own little brother. Little brother ended up getting picked on. Hey, we got a dragon for you. It's a pig, and he ends up like walking down and finding that dragon down in the depths there.
that I think that's foreshadowing something.
Oh, it's got to be, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he doesn't even want to be king. He even said, I don't even want to be king.
Right, Aemon. Yeah, he
And
doesn't
then
want to be king.
yeah. But then she was like, also was like, you know what? If you're not, your life is in danger.
Mhm.
She kind of drew it out for him. Like, you're gonna die. You think
Right.
you're friends with them, and you think you're friends with your aunt? They're gonna kill your ass.
Right. It's bad. It's just like the disconnect and the divide between Rhaenyra and Alicent is just like it's just bigger than ever. There's never gonna be I feel like there's no coming back to it's just gonna go worse and worse.
I want to see Sir Kristen Cole in front of a dragon. Someone say Dakaris. I want
Yeah.
him to be fried.
You over that guy?
I am so beyond this dude.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? It's like a high school relationship. Oh, I got scored, and I'm gonna hate her for the rest of my life.
Like get over it, man.
Yeah, it's what are you, a child?
10
She
years
said
later,
Yeah.
still giving her stink eye.
Oh, I'm just done with that. But then there's the Daemon. We actually got Daemon this episode, and dude, I love this actor. He has so little to say, but when he is on camera, it's like he demands your attention. He may
Matt
not
Smith
say a
is killing it.
word.
Yeah, he's killing it in this role for sure.
And-
He's been in a lot of stuff. He was one of the doctors on Doctor Who.
Yeah.
He's been in on the Netflix series The Queen.
Jeanette, my wife just started rewatching that, so I'm seeing him
Yeah.
in that right now. I'm like, I can't separate the two.
Oh yeah, now once you're aware of him now, like you're gonna see him everywhere, and he's. But I think this role for him has been really like he is just eating it up. He's doing a great job.
Yeah, like I said, I love that he can just walk in the room or sit at a desk and have only 2 lines of dialogue, and you're just drinking it in. It's like you just can't get enough of it. But
I mean, talk about fast forward the stuff with his family. So he went to Pentos. He's been hiding out in Pentos for a bit as an honored guest with him, and he ended up marrying the daughter that Viserys was supposed to marry at one point. She's grown up. She's popped out a couple of Daemon's kids. He has a couple daughters with her. So I guess he got over, whatever. He popped some Viagra or whatever and got over the issues he was having. But he went ahead and it was just tragedy. I mean, like fast forward button, like she's already popped out 2 kids. She has a third on the way. A bad delivery of the pregnancy.
we have
She takes it
another
upon herself.
situation where we had with Valeris. I was
Yeah.
like, dude, don't do it, because they had the same conversation.
Mhm.
We can do this, but we can't save her. I was like, oh man, are you gonna do the same thing your brother did? And he didn't. We have a different Daemon happening right now.
Well,
This
he doesn't
isn't
have
the
a
same
choice.
Daemon.
We didn't see him make a decision either way. Like because she took it upon herself. She either overheard the conversation or knew what was about to take place, and he was like, "No, I'm taking myself out."
I think if it was going to take place, it would have taken place right there and then. I
Mm.
don't think they would have waited. I think they would have been ready to go ahead and do it. And I think he made a conscious decision not to do it. That's how that.
I didn't get that from the scene at all.
Oh,
He was still he was still talking to the doctor when she stood up and started walking out of the room.
But his reaction to it, his
Yeah.
facial reactions and everything, his body language and everything, that's what made me lead to believe that he was not going to make the same decision that his brother made.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
That's kind of how I read that. And then when she went ahead and did her own thing with that, dude, that dragon's phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah. I forget I forget the name of the
I
dragon, but
don't remember.
apparently I do know it was the same one that Viserys mentioned in the first couple episodes that was missing in action that they hadn't seen in a few years. Apparently it's like the current living, like the biggest dragon or oldest dragon that's still around. And she was the rider of it, and now it's riderless. But they were teasing, she had the conversation with her daughter earlier in the episode. Don't worry, you'll get your dragon. And the daughter was looking on, as her mother did what she did. And I mean, you could tell that's where the story's going. Eventually, that daughter is going to ride that dragon.
I love the fact that was in front of it, and she said Daenerys, Daenerys. I'm trying to say.
Yeah, she had to say it 2 or 3 times. Yeah,
and the dragon looked at her like, I don't want to.
right,
Like there was a connect. Yeah, well, they say there's a connection between the dragons and the riders,
right.
but it's also like there's a like for us to debate. Go ahead and make a easy comparison. A dog owner relationship.
Right.
He didn't want to do it. He got his order. He didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
And eventually he went ahead, he listened. But I was like, that was heartbreaking.
Yeah. How do you feel about, so that's one of the critiques about this show in general is that some people are finding it hard just to keep up because this is at like a breakneck speed where we just had a 10-year gap in between episodes. Like it seems like it's real pedal to the metal as far as the storytelling. Are you able to keep up with it just fine? Like, how do you feel about that?
I have no problem with the pace because I knew the pace going into it. My issue with the pace is when somebody dies, I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we lost the Hand of the King here in this episode, and Rhaenyra's, I don't remember his name, followed to her kids.
Yeah, the bigger strong brother.
Yeah. When they died in the fire, I truly didn't care.
Right.
I mean, so we're only connected to very few characters. Within the original Game of Thrones, they made it so there was a pace. So you were connected and you had a connection to all the main characters.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not getting that in this show. The only ones that I would be flabbergasted have died if it was Daemon or if it's Rhaenyra or if it's Alicent. Even the kids, I just don't care. And that's my biggest critique really of the show right now.
Yeah, and I think that's valid because the original show it opened up with even season 1, episode 1, when Robert Baratheon brings his Lannister family down there up there to Winterfell. We get introduced to so many
and Bran
people.
gets thrown out the window and he's paralyzed. You felt that immediately.
Even from episode 1, yeah.
Or when the guy abandoned the wall
Mm-hmm.
and he had to be executed. He brought what's his name? The father. I'm forgetting his name.
Ned Stark.
Ned Stark, thank you. He brought all the kids around and
Yeah.
say, this is what your duty is.
Right.
So
So there's some weight to it. Yeah.
yeah, so there's weight. There was stakes. You understood everything immediately. Yeah, I'm just that's the one thing I'm not getting from this show.
But other than that, I'd agree with that actually. But other than that, it is, even though it's a breakneck pace, like it is very interesting. Like I can't wait to see where it goes next and how many more time jumps they're gonna be. I'm curious, like if this show is as popular as it is, they're going to continue it. But it's like eventually this story of this family and this particular era of this family will run out, the Targaryens. You just move on to further generations
Well,
until we get
Snow
all
has
the
already
way
been
up to.
already been confirmed. They're making the Jon Snow series that took place after what we know of Game of Thrones.
I'm talking specifically about House of the Dragon. Do you continue stories about the Targaryens leading up between now and the era of the original Game of Thrones series? Or do you just end it? Like you give 2 seasons worth of Targaryens and House of the Dragon is then done?
I don't know if there's enough.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's enough meat left on the bone after the battle that basically destroys, the family. You're right. Once they have a cash cow, they just don't let it go away.
Yeah.
But
And
how
just
would
because they have another Game of Thrones spinoff with Jon Snow and
doesn't
such.
mean it's going to be as successful.
Right, exactly, because it's gonna be a totally different thing, different showrunners, different production, different story, different actors, different everything, and it's not gonna be House of the Dragon. This
No.
is specifically, I don't think House of the Dragon is having the success that it is right now because of the name Game of Thrones.
Yeah, 'cause there's a
I
lot of
think
people that are watching it but had no connection to Game of Thrones. Period. My wife, example.
Right. I think House of the Dragon is having its success right now in its moment because of the story that it's telling, because of the actors that are playing these characters, and it's because it's separate from what we know of the original series Game of Thrones. And yeah, so for them to just, I think they have at least another season of House of Dragon planned.
I think it's 3 seasons. I think 3 seasons are
Oh, is it
planned.
3?
I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's 3
Right.
seasons.
It'll be curious to see how this ends up going. But yeah,
I
I'm
want
still
them to end it with us wanting more.
yeah,
That's what I want. I want them to end it fantastically
right.
rather than drawing out too long. But yeah, hey guys, what do you think? Do you like where it's going? Do you like this 10-year gap? Are you having the same problem that I'm having? It's having no emotional connection to these characters when they die. It's like, okay, another one bit the dust.
Right.
Let us know. Drop a comment below. We are fully interactive. So if you do join us live, let us know while we're live. We'll go ahead and we'll respond to those comments. But hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, join our community. Go ahead and see what else is going on our site. We do everything. Trailer reactions. We have Ted Lasso stuff up there. I mean, that should be coming up here at the end of the year, maybe beginning of next year. So you don't miss anything. Like I said, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And I think if it's good to go ahead and say until next time. We'll see you after the show.
See ya. See you next week.